all of this stuff is kind of predicated on your ability to communicate, obviously, as a coach.
Yep.
Which a lot of adults see. I find that people that haven't played really high level competitive sports,
Right.
this isn't always true. Like, this is obviously an overstatement.
Okay.
But people that have been in positions like us, I oftentimes find have enough confidence to communicate well. Now, it's not limited to just confidence, but they have experience enough and they have confidence enough. They've developed themselves enough where they can explain and talk, and they're not scared of like the interaction between other people. And I find people that don't have that experience as much, and again, I'm like overstating this because obviously there's people outside that can communicate fine, but they don't have the same ability to relate. So if you're a parent coach or something and you don't have the same kind of experience or confidence in talking with your players individually, it's really important that you try to develop that, because if you can't talk to them, like this was an issue I had with coaches all through my careers. Like, they're just not good communicators. Not and in junior it was different because maybe there's other motivations involved in why they're not talking and whatever, and it's not necessarily their job at that stage and whatever other reasons. But even there, like, just being able to take a kid aside and talk to him, and they're going to be nervous, they're going to be scared to talk to you, they're not going to approach 100%. You especially when they're young and little. As they get older, that's more expected, where they should be coming to you to talk if they have an issue. But what if you're in that position where maybe you're not? And again, it takes self-awareness to know you're not a good communicator, but assuming you know that maybe you're not the best communicator, then how do you play in that role? Like, what can you do? What kind of strategies would you come up with for that?
It's a good question. I can honestly say I probably don't have an answer, because I don't know if I would put myself in a situation to coach if I couldn't communicate.
Yeah, that's right.
Do you know what I mean?
Oh, well, how about I'll give a half answer and then tell me what you think. I think it would turn into something that you can turn on yourself to work on yourself.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, you need to kind of take that responsibility now and say, I need to work on doing this. So even if you're not the best communicator, like, tough. Or you have an assistant coach that is. Yeah, that's a great.
Again,
yeah,
so
that's a
for
great
example, I had my buddy who he passed away. Actually, he's 44 years old. He was. We were so funny, and the kids just saw us laughing all the time. But he said, I want you to come and speak to the kids at the school, like, because he was a teacher too. And he goes, like, it's awesome. But then there was times where he was better than me at communicating with the kids, because he could just take a kid, excuse me, and just be honest with the kid and say, like, let's say it was Charlie. It's like, Charlie, I know that you're better than that. Like, what's wrong? How can you be better? Like, the guys need you. And just a little thing like that. And it was like enough. Or more than enough, really, that he would do the trick, or he would pay attention to the hockey piece to me, and he didn't get half of it, but he would just reiterate words and just, help the kids out that way, and he was perfect. So
that's a great answer, because I didn't even think about that. But this plays in your team, like with a coaching staff. It's the exact same thing as picking like your leadership on a team, right? Your captains and assistant captains. Like, I remember in junior, my 1 year, I was an assistant captain, and the captain of our team, awesome player. He ended up getting a Division I scholarship. Really good player. Didn't talk. Very quiet. He was a lot like Jerv, actually, where he's like very soft, led by example. He wasn't like the rah whatever guy. I'm more of a chatterbox, as you might notice. And so he would literally on the bench. Sometimes, like, we were on the same line. We'd be next to each other, and if something was going wrong, he'd give me a tap, and he would just be like, "Hey, get the boys going. Like, get them going. Like, say something, whatever." Because he's not the rah guy. Right. But he knew, hey, like, you're more of a rah guy, so you say something, like, you do it, kind of thing, right? And that's an awesome analogy to what you're saying with the coaches. Like, if you're not a guy that's a really effective communicator, you can bring someone on to help you, because you need a coaching staff, right? You're going to have assistant coaches.
Yeah, in youth hockey, you're going to have an assistant coach, coaches, and trainers, and stick boys, and all that kind of stuff. And you can just surround yourself with people that have that.
I didn't even think of that.
In fact, I'm just looking through Charlie's minor hockey career, and I'll look at even through mine. Like, Mr. Rose was a gem to me. Like, I can't ask for anything better. Mm-hmm. But even his assistant coaches, they were more goof around guys, but they knew a little bit of hockey, but they were more like joke around with you and get you going. and you love them. Some guys didn't like Mr. Rose because he was
Too much kind of thing.
too much maybe, but I loved him. And I look at Charlie's coaches, and it always seems like the assistant coaches were the ones that they really gravitated to. I remember the one Carlton. He just loved him. He goes, I love Carlton. I wish he was our head coach all the time. And he just had the it factor. And Charlie and the boys, not only my kid, would go through a wall for this guy.
Yeah.
So that's maybe one way to look at it. Now you gotta you say all this stuff with keeping in mind that you assume people's egos can be left.
Yeah. Right.
Like and it's a tough thing though, because if you win, you want to be, you actually do want to say like, I really contributed to winning. But again, it's a rising tide that raises all ships. So if you give people power and strengths and stuff like that, it makes it better. So I would find good assistant coaches if you're more of a quiet guy. Yeah. And even someone with hockey knowledge, like, at the end of the day, youth hockey, you just want to give the kids the best experience and hopefully win some games, but that's
well, and it's not that it's going to be perfect either. Like we're not saying you're going to be running a NHL caliber organization or anything, but you want to make it the best situation you can. But even 100%. for different personalities on your team, that's a good thing, right? Where you got a guy that's more quiet and a guy that's a little bit more raw, because some guys might relate more to one than the other, like you just said, right? Like some people, I might like your style of speaking better, whereas another guy would rather have someone who's more a one-on-one, more quiet, can talk to them, that makes them more comfortable or whatever, and then you can play to all those different personality types. But yeah, that's that ability to communicate. If you're not a good communicator, like surround yourself with people that are, and then making sure that you're plugging strengths, whether it's yourself or your assistant coaches, coaching staff, or whatever.